Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special episode of Toastmasters Unplugged. Today's episode, Toastmasters Unplugged and Unstoppable, is all about celebrating some of the very inspiring women in Toastmasters, while we celebrate today International Women's Day. So importantly, this episode today is not just for women. Yes, it's about women, it's with women, but it's for all of us. If you're a woman or have women in your life, this episode is for you. Today, we're going to meet and chat with some truly amazing, interesting, and inspiring women. Ordinary women doing extraordinary things, following their passions, doing what they love, and as my own children sometimes say, living their best lives. That's inspiring, right? That's what all of us want. Now, I wonder, might Toastmasters have something got to do with this? Well, we're going to find out more about these women's backgrounds, their experiences, and their perceptions, including what they've been able to bring to and get from Toastmasters. So prepare to be inspired. A little bit about myself before I start. My name is Siobhan Keenan Fitzgerald, and I've been a member of Toastmasters International for 21 years. Wow, I can't believe that. I've been a member of Athlone Toastmasters, which is my base club, always has been, and also a fantastic online club called Toastmasters for Golf. I also want to give a shout out to another club, a club that's in District 72 called Ouch. Not like ouch, I got hurt. Well, it is OUCH, which is an acronym for Online Uncensored Comedians and Humorists. And it's based out of New Zealand. So I was formerly a member of that club during the pandemic. But when I'm not at Toastmasters, I'm a mother, I'm an educator, and I'm a TED talker, an author, and a poet. And of course, I am a Toastmaster. So much of these things I've done since I've joined Toastmasters, but enough about me. I am dying to meet these ladies that we're going to chat with today. It's my pleasure to host this event today on behalf of District 71, which is all of Ireland and parts of the UK. And if you're watching us live, we'd be delighted if you could interact with us. And you can do this by putting a comment into the comments bar, wherever you're watching us from. Let us know where exactly you're watching us from. And throughout our chats this morning, please do feel free to ask questions or put comments in there. We'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible. So now let's get started. I can't wait to meet our first guest. Olga, can you bring on Martina, please, our first guest?
Hello, Siobhan.
Hello, Martina. So lovely to see you. Martina, can I give your introduction now? I have a little piece here about you. So Martina Breen, our first guest today. Martina is a psychotherapist, a supervisor, an integrative health specialist, a spiritual companion, and a member of a community of elders called Saging International. Oh, I know this chat is going to be really intriguing for everybody, Martina. Martina, how are you today?
I am great and so excited, to be here and humbled to be part of the panel celebrating International Women's Day today.
Oh, well, when I heard that we were doing this, you immediately came to mind, because over the years in Toastmasters, you've inspired me in so many ways. Martina, can you just start by giving us a little bit of background into who you are, I suppose, and what you do?
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm native from Athlone, and in this aging world, we would say we celebrate actually the number of years of life experience rather than aging. So, I've 65 years of life experience this year. So looking to celebrate because COVID took my 601. So I grew up in a large family. I'm a 10th child of 11. And so I got married young, had my children young, and then went back to college then afterwards. So studied psychotherapy, always had an interest in spirituality. So did my master's in applied Christian spirituality. And then I got involved with an organization, the Sacred Art of Living and Dying. So spent a long number of years in Celtic spirituality and spiritual pain. And then that brought me to the place where I am today, which is great. It's actually working in the area of life I'm in, and that's conscious aging.
Conscious aging, wow.
And being part of Toastmasters has supported me in being present and being able to present, and just in so many areas of confidence throughout all of that.
Martina, I love that idea of, instead of saying I'm so many years old, that you have so many years of life experience. I think that's a really important message and a very important distinction, especially at a time when, I find even sometimes people who have the same number of years life experience as myself, I'm not shy about saying how old I am or whatever, but they might say, oh, I don't want to say how old I am. But
That's
when I
right.
heard you say that first, I thought, well, why don't you say how many years life experience you have? Because that seems to give you so much more power.
Absolutely. And it's like, and yes, ageism is alive and kicking in the world today, but the world needs elders. Our very own Mary Robinson, she's president of a group of people called the ex-presidents, called the elders. But owning our years of life experience and the wisdom that our life experience has given us, and all the different journeys we've taken, the different professional skills we've developed along the way. The world needs our wisdom, So, yeah, I'm very passionate about that area of work.
I
Mm.
couldn't agree more. I definitely think the world needs your wisdom anyway, Martina. But you mentioned earlier there conscious aging. And I know you've talked before about conscious aging, conscious living, conscious dying. Now,
Mhm.
dying is, I suppose, a topic we don't really like to talk about that much. But what are your, what could you tell us about that might help us feel a little bit better about talking about it?
Yes, conscious living is about, engaging with life consciously. And then bringing that into, I can go into more on either one, but then bringing that into, like, we're all getting older, but how we age is actually a choice, and there's a lot of myths around aging, it's, oh, well, it's your age, or the expectations of ourselves lower. But it's actually been scientifically proven now, that the brain is elastic, the elasticity, and that we can recreate ourselves. So that's from a mental, physical, emotional, but even from a spiritual perspective. A lot of people, as you say, they're afraid of even talking about death, but there's none of us getting out alive, as you know. And
That's for
even our
sure.
ancestors would have said, like wishing somebody, if someone was dying or ill, they'd be wished a bossona, which means a happy death. And so what
Mm.
is a happy death? And they say, may you be fully alive when death comes to meet you. And
Wow, that's powerful.
may I be living fully right up and have fully lived in this mortal body, that when death comes, that I'm ready to meet it. If we are given the choice or the timing, many people don't. And, last year I lost 3 family members, and my brother and his wife, they passed very suddenly, both of them very close together. And the shock and the not ready of anyone to say goodbye, it impacts those left behind, whereas my sister died later in the year, and she was given time. She had time to prepare. She had time to say goodbyes. We had time to be with her. And she had a basona. She crossed over ready and beautifully. And not alone was that amazing for her, but it was amazing for her family and everyone that was left behind, because there wasn't the extra grief of the other person suffering.
Wow. Martina, thank you for sharing that with us. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't speak Irish, or that bás sana, that actually means a happy death in the Irish language. But I think it's a very empowering concept, what you mentioned, Martina, as well, that we have a choice over how we age. I think that's really, really helpful. Martina, would you mind, before you leave us for the next guest, just telling us, is there a woman that inspires you?
Anytime I'm asked that question, the first person who comes to mind I just admire so much is Meryl Streep, the actress. And not just for her acting skills, but she has played a lot of parts of feminine leaders, including Margaret Thatcher and that, but she embodies, I think she's a sacred storyteller. She embodies a story, and she expresses it, and she expresses it in her being, not just her acting. And yes, and I think, that in Toastmasters, we learn a lot of those skills very subtly through role modeling, through practice, but that all the skills are broken down, and how to fully express yourself and story. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you so much, Martina. I'm going to call on our next guest, but hopefully we'll see you back for our panel discussion towards the end. Thanks again, Martina.
Thank you so much, Siobhan.
And our next guest is Simone Rodriguez. Excuse me.
It's okay.
My mouth is dry. Sorry. Rodriguez. Is that it? That's okay,
Simone
Simone?
Rodriguez. Yeah, you got it.
And Simone is the founder of the Unicorn Talks. That sounds intriguing. The Unicorn Talks, where she connects with individuals to help them gain clarity and confidence. And she's also part of a trio that run Patch and Neighborhood Workspace in Bournemouth. So that's just a tiny bit about Simone, but we're going to hear more from Simone herself. Simone, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. It's awesome to be part of this. So thank you for asking me. It's lovely to actually finally meet you, meet you, I suppose.
Yeah, but it kind of does feel that we're meeting one-to-one, doesn't it? Even though it's online.
It's lovely. It's a really lovely touch.
But Simone, can you just give all of our listeners a little bit of background information into who you are and what you do?
I always find this question quite challenging, because I think so much of our experience of life makes us who we are. I grew up in a big family. We're multicultural. I was born in South Africa, moved to the UK when I was about 9, and have done the rest of my schooling throughout the UK. And so it has been quite the experience learning who I am now, and kind of learning how to use my past to really influence my current life. I was a dancer for many years until an injury. I got married pretty young, moved around the UK for a bit. I love road trips. I've got good friends. And at the end of my marriage, I decided to plunge into things that really made my heart happy. And one of those things was speaking. And a good friend of mine used to do Toastmasters in London, and the name just popped into my head. And that's how I kind of started my journey with Toastmasters and where I am right now. And now I work with an incredible trio, as you mentioned. They are pretty insane. The two girls I work with, we are such a strong unit, and I've never had that experience before. And it's been a lot of fun to grow into that and see what that looks like.
Super. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Unicorn Talks?
Of course, yeah. So the Unicorn Talks has been something that I've been working on for a number of years, and I've got some powerhouse people that have helped me refine and create this what I think is a crucial service that some people need when they are stuck. So at the end of my marriage, I actually had no idea where to turn. I was brave enough to go to therapy, but being very vulnerable was quite tough for me. And I had to learn the hard way that I had to strip those layers of myself that kind of held control and this kind of semblance of strength that I thought I had. And so I needed a blueprint on how to get unstuck. And so the Unicorn Talks was born from that. My love of speaking, my love of working with people, my love of seeing people shine into themselves. And so that is exactly what that is. It's a consultancy, basically, where I'm able to meet with individuals, help them find the problem, get unstuck and move forward.
Super. Simone, your authenticity and vulnerability comes across, and I think it's infectious, and thank you for speaking so openly with us. You mentioned earlier about what makes your heart happy. I think that's such a lovely term, and I always think of what sparks joy as well. Is there anything else in particular that makes your heart happy?
Love that question. I think there has been so many small moments. I've learned to really be in the present through all the throwing myself into learning at kind of the depth of my depression. Small moments are the things that make my heart happy, when I'm able to be really present and grounded in the space that I'm in, and even just taking a moment to experience something and just really inhale it. Those are the moments that make my heart happy, because those cumulative moments, I feel, really build who I am and who I want to be. So I would say those small, sometimes seemingly insignificant moments make my heart happy.
Super. Thank you, Simone. Simone, is there any woman in particular who inspires you that you'd like to share with us?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I have a plethora of women that are incredible in my life, from my aunties to my mom, to some of the powerhouse women that I have in my life now. I've been very intentional about growing the friendships around me, and that has really birthed an incredible circle of friends. So there's not one person that I can really shout out. I am so unbelievably blessed to be surrounded by powerhouse women, if I'm honest. So there are many of them.
So I can't nail you down to one. No,
I'm sorry, you can't. I think they have individually influenced my life in some of the most incredible ways, and it would be really hard for me to pick one.
Yeah, and I think we often find in Toastmasters, at least it's been my experience, that there are many women around us, other members in our clubs, in our areas, that serve as those inspirational characters for us as well. It would be very hard to choose between them, because they're all leading the way in their own unique way.
100%.
Simone, it's been brilliant to talk to you one-on-one, and you'll be coming back for our panel discussion in a while. So thank you very much. And I'm going to ask Olga to bring on our next guest, please.
Thanks, Siobhan.
You're very welcome. And our next guest, I'm delighted to welcome Mul Nai Lemoshira, who goes by the name Nai, which makes it nice and easy for me. Thank you, Nai. And Nai is a tutor at Maynooth University here in Ireland. She's also a part-time researcher, a mum of 4. And Nai is originally from Kenya. She's probably our newest member to Toastmasters. I think she's just been a member for the last few months. If I'm right, Nai can tell us whether that's so or not. But Nai also serves on the board of directors of various different organizations, as well as the school board. Nai, it's such a pleasure to meet you this morning. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Siobhan, and I hope you can hear me clearly.
I can hear you, and Nai, I know
Perfect.
you went to great lengths to connect with us today because you were saying that your four little ones were hoping to get on camera, I think, if you stayed at home.
Yes, so I had to come to our library and to get a bit of a peace and not not to be interrupted for a few minutes. Um,
And Nai,
yeah, so thank you for having me here. I'm really happy. I'm glad to be here with
oh
you.
no, it's our
I
privilege.
believe I met you once. Um,
That's right. We only
yes,
met once
and
before in Athlone Toastmasters Club, where you always meet quite amazing people. But now, can you
absolutely.
tell our viewers and myself, because I'm very eager to find out a little bit about your background, who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. To talk about myself, I am from, again, thank you for having me here. I'm from Kenya. Um, I live in Athlone. I'm a mom of four, three girls and one boy. Um, I moved to Ireland several years ago to pursue further studies. And um,
I know you've done a good bit of study on women in leadership. Is
yes,
that right, Nai?
yes, and having lived here, I have seen the obvious disparity in women leadership between where I come from, Kenya, and Ireland. I come from the Maasai tribe. I know you may have seen, in the media, images of tall African men with spears and shields, kind of famed for their bravery. But those are the people, those are my people. But they're also, those are men, but there are also women, although underrepresented, they're just as brave. Um, and this kind of sparkled my personal interest in leadership and research in the Maasai women leadership. And it also encouraged me to embark on my own journey to putting myself forward in leadership and finding my own voice. So joining Toastmaster actually was one of those opportunities, and just putting myself forward and serving in board of directors in several organizations within my community and in Ireland as well, and in school. It's kind of just putting myself out there to challenge that aspect of women leadership.
And you're doing all of that now while having your four children, which is no mean feat. I imagine you must be a super inspiration to them.
Absolutely, and before I started studying my studies and masters, I was actually a homestay mom, and I remember my daughter saying, "Oh, don't worry about mommy will clean this, mommy will do that," and I thought, wait a minute, I'm yet, being a parent, you have to teach your children in all aspects, including that confidence, how you want to build your life. And I thought to myself, this is an opportunity to actually also show the kids, particularly my girls, that you can be more than just staying home cleaning dishes. I know it's a really important role, yes, but it is
Mm.
important to fulfill your potential, to know that within yourself you have so much to give. And I wanted to show them that balance, and I'm happy that I've been doing it. It's a journey, definitely. Being a parent is a journey, and we improve over time. And I'm hoping that I'm setting that example for them.
I'm pretty sure you are now. Actually, we have a little bit in common. So I have four children myself. And when I joined Toastmasters myself 21 years ago, I remember my second child was about 2 months old. And And I had an idea that I might be a stay-at-home mom for a while, but then I realized it wasn't for me. And I know it's for some people, not for others. But I think, just like you said, so important to achieve our own unique potential. And we have to go with what feels right for us. But interestingly, now when my children, they got the idea whenever they saw me get dressed up and have a little bit of a pep in my step going out the door, they'd come up to me and they'd say, Toastmasters? They knew Toastmasters was doing something special. So hopefully that created a curiosity in them about it. So Nai, you mentioned, so you mentioned about achieving your full potential. And I'd love to just hear a little bit more about what your plans are to do with your research on women in leadership. Or do you have a plan yet?
It's an evolving plan, but ultimately, I do hope, having engaged in the research on women leadership in my community, finding some of those factors that hinder women into leadership, including tradition, value of a culture that often puts women behind the scene, even though they are very strong and there is that silent strength in them. They play so much role. And because of that, also we women tend to put ourselves, on the back, to think that what we are doing is not as important. We don't bring it forward. We don't highlight it. We don't acknowledge or embrace all that we are doing. And having to do that, I tend to engage with women within our community, women that I come across, to highlight, talk about women, talk about the challenges, and talk about the greatness that they are doing as well. Bring forth those trends because, as some of the ladies that have spoken previously, you can tell that they're doing so much more than just being mothers. They're doing so much more. But we need to bring that forth. We need to bring our voice. We need to have that voice. We need to promote women into leadership. And that's what I hope to achieve, to encourage, to highlight, and to engage. I think one of the things that motivates me as well, like to engage with women in my community and just talk to them, to let them know that they're doing a marvelous job and they have so much to offer that they need to come forward. It's incredible. It's incredible how much you say, you hear, I actually don't have skills. But when you interact, you actually find that they have they're already leaders. They just need to come forward.
That's a powerful message. Nai, thank you for sharing that. And I loved that term that you gave us, silent strength. So that silent strength of women, it's great to draw attention to that today. Nai, can I ask you, do you have, is there a particular woman who inspires you?
That is a really personal question for me, in the sense that when I was young, I used to think that I needed to admire somebody who's famous or take them as a role model. But life has taught me in a real sense that for me, my role models have been my mom, my grandma, and the amazing women that I meet in my community. They have, I wouldn't select them individually and say this is, but they have all been very collectively very inspiring, and they have taught me different values. They have uplifted me up in my down moments, and they have given me an aspiration to improve myself, to be a better version of myself. And I'm really fortunate enough to say I have met amazing women in my life, and I've met some, including yourself, who have inspired me in various categories, career, being a mom, and being a community member, and even in the Toastmaster, which I recently joined, I have met incredible women who have given me a very soothing platform to find my voice. And to me, that's super encouraging. And that is one of the reasons as well. I was, that's one thing I was as well looking for there, and I'm grateful that I found it. So thank you.
You're very welcome, Nai. I think the pleasure is ours, and I'm so looking forward to hearing more speeches about you in Athlone, from you and about you in Athlone Club. But also, and we'll hear a little bit more about your experience of Toastmasters to date when you come back as part of the panel. But for now, I'll just say goodbye and I'll welcome the next guest. Thank you, Nai. And our next guest is Eileen Fleming, and Eileen is an all-star business consultant and mentor with over 22 years of experience. She's the owner of the Buff Day Spa in Dublin. Oh, wouldn't it be so nice to be there today on International Women's Day? Maybe somebody'd like to treat that special lady in their lives to a trip to the Buff Day Spa in Dublin. But Eileen specializes in business systemization. Eileen, how are you today?
I'm very good, Siobhan, and absolutely privileged to be here with you. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, again, it's just our pleasure to have you here. I can't wait to hear a little bit more about what you have to share. So, Eileen, can you give our viewers a little bit of background into what you do and who you are?
Okay, so I'm originally from Clare. I left Clare at the age 17, went to Galway, got a degree in languages, moved into the IT sector, which I absolutely loved. Ended up moving to Holland, where I had my first massage, which changed my life forever. I thought, this is an industry I have to get into. So I came back from Holland, and with two friends, I set up Dublin's first day spa in 2002. So we started off with absolutely nothing, from scratch, zero business experience, except for we all had trained in the different modalities in beauty, and grew the business year by year, throughout the 2000s. In 2007, the three of us ended up pregnant at the same time, which was lots of fun. You can imagine around the spa, three of us within 3 months of each other. Not a lot of planning there, I can tell you, Siobhan. And then 2008 bought out one partner. And then in 2009, I suppose I had a bit of a health scare. I lost the power of my walk for 2 years. So that was a life-changing moment where I knew I had to do things different in business. Eventually got everything good again, got back to work. And when my second business partner, when I bought her out in 2015, I really realized that I had to get my business working without me, just in case anything ever happened to me in my health again. So at that stage, I really started working and looking at business systemization. What am I bringing to the business? What can I get other people to do that I do in the business? And started to get the operational aspect of the business running just as well as if I was there or not there. Then in 2019, I set up a separate consultancy company where I focused a bit on spa management, really going into local hotels who had a spa and might not necessarily have known how to drive the revenue, how to motivate the team, how to build the brand. Then in 2020, this is like a real chronological order here, but there is a point to it all. I went into partnership with one of our brands, a skincare partner called Dermalogica. Some of you might have heard of it. And we opened their first flagship store in Dublin, in Stephen's Green. Now that happened on the 7th of March, 2020, which was a very, very exciting time, having a third business at that stage. But then obviously COVID hit, and then everything got shut down a week and a half later, which was tough going. You know, the whole business, the spa had closed down, the spa consultancy had closed down, and I was there, at home in the house I had just previously bought only a year before, having time to enjoy my home. And that's when I went back to college. I went back to Trinity, and I did a postgrad certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. And that's when I decided I was going to pivot and really focus on business systemization, helping other business owners to systemize their business to run without their day-to-day operational involvement, like I have the Buff Day Spa running without me. So I live here. I'm here from Tullamore this morning. That's where I live in County Offaly, but my primary business is in Dublin City Centre beside the Gaiety Theatre. So that's a little bit of background on where I've come from.
Wow, Eileen, thank you for sharing all of that with us. All I can say is that must have been some massage in Holland that started all of this off.
I know. I think at the time I was so stressed, working in IT, I absolutely thrived on it, but it's a very, very stressful environment. And especially when things go wrong, all eyes are on you. So to have that experience of my first ever massage and feeling that whole thing where you're not asleep, but it's like touching a little piece of heaven, that feeling of relaxation and peace. I never experienced it. And I just knew I had to get involved in the industry. It's one of those feelings,
Super. And Eileen, I can't really think of anything more scary than business for some reason. I just find that whole area so scary, I suppose is the word. But you seem so calm when you talk about it and the different evolutions that your business has gone through and everything. Is it scary at all to you, or how do you view it? Do you have any tips to anybody else out there, facing some of these challenges, like the way that you seem to have used what could be life-changing events for the negative? You seem to have been able to use them to pivot or as a springboard for something good. Well, what's the trick in all of that?
Well, I suppose I always feel I'm a natural problem solver. I love problems because problems don't faze me. I've had all different types of problems come into my life. And it's like, okay, look at it objectively, what can be done? So I sometimes think business is one set of problems after another. You can have plain sailing for a week or two and then something else hits and you've got to tackle it, So I do think the ability to be able to not be fazed by when things land on your doorstep and how you calmly overcome it and try and not panic. That would be the first thing I would say. And I think a huge part of business for me is being out of your comfort zone. Like, in business, there's so many different areas. There's sales, there's marketing, there's accounts, there's HR, there's health and safety, and then there's the actual, whatever your service you're providing in business. Nobody really knows what they're doing starting off. And it's like, just go along and you ask other people, you get help, you learn, you read, you educate yourself, and you get out of your comfort zone and learn bit by bit, but by breaking it down into small, manageable steps. Because nobody becomes fantastic at sales overnight. It's bit by bit, trying, seeing does that work, maybe not, learning, trying something else. And I feel in business, it really is a matter of getting out of your comfort zone each and every day, but then thriving on it, because that's where the growth comes from.
That's super, Eileen. Very motivating, I'm sure, for our listeners. Eileen, you'll be coming back to talk to us a little bit more about Toastmasters in a while, but just before you head off for a minute, is there a woman who inspires you that you'd like to share with us?
So like some of the other listeners, I found this quite challenging to pick one. Like, I am so lucky. I have such a strong, supportive network of very close female friends and female women in business, and men as well. But I did narrow it down to one lady. Back in 2013, I attended a tackler event where there was lots of different speakers, lots of different things going on that day. And at one stage, this lady went up on stage and I looked at her and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen here. She opened her mouth and she was an incredible public speaker. So she commanded the room. Who she was, her name was Paula Fitzsimmons. And anybody in business may have come across her. She's the founder of the Going for Growth network, which supports female entrepreneurs in Ireland. So I heard her speak and I thought, my gosh, I could never, ever get up on stage and do something like that. She is absolutely incredible. After the event, I thought about it and I thought, why? I had such a fear of public speaking. I emailed her and I just thanked her and I told her I was going to join my local Toastmasters club here in Tullamore because I had such a fear of my voice being heard and speaking out my opinions. So for me, she was really pivotal in my journey because she inspired me to reach out, go along to my first Toastmasters meeting, shake like a leaf, eventually stand up and say something, and then continue my journey into public speaking, where at this stage I do it, and I don't do it for a living, but I regularly speak in front of crowds, and I'm at the stage now, 15 years on, where I enjoy it, which is a huge thing from quaking in my boots in 2013. So I do put it down to being inspired by Paula. Eventually I did take part in one of her Going for Growth programs, which is a roundtable event where different female entrepreneurs, not in competition with each other, come together to work on growing their business. And, that was an incredible program, which really propelled me within my business too. So thank you, Paula.
Super, Eileen. Eileen, I'll let you go for a minute, and I look forward to seeing you back on the panel. And I'll just ask Olga to bring in our next guest. Thank you, Eileen. And our next guest is Ashley Tobin. Ashley is a nurse and a mind coach with a special interest in hormonal health. Ashley has 35 years experience across conventional and complementary medicine. Ashley, it's lovely to see you today. You're very welcome. How are you?
I am very good. Today is a good day to be alive.
Oh, I love that sentiment. Yeah, I wake up some mornings, that's exactly what I think. And some mornings I don't think that, but I try and make myself think it. Ashley, can you tell us a little bit about your background, who you are and what you do?
I will indeed. So I'm originally from Kilkenny, although I left Kilkenny to go nursing when I was 17 years old. So that's over 40 years ago at this stage. I stayed in nursing. I qualified in nursing back in the 80s. But for anyone who's old enough to remember, Ireland in the 80s was a pretty rough and dark and grim place. And I remember not wanting to leave Ireland to work. And at the same time realizing that there was not a great future for me in nursing. So after a number of years, I moved into the pharmaceutical industry and worked there for 12 years. And I loved it. It was a fabulous world, particularly in the area of mental health, which had always fascinated me ever since I was a child. How humans behaved, what they were doing, why they were doing some of the things they were doing, and to be working in an area that helped me understand what happened when our mental health isn't working so well for us was incredible. But at the same time, I also wished that perhaps conventional medicine could look at us a little bit more holistically, that we didn't have to get siloed into specialists and specialities, but that really we could be viewed as a whole person, and that our physical and our emotional and mental well-being was, as I describe it, all inside the same piece of skin. So it got me interested in complementary medicine and in what I would call human learning. Just fascinated with the idea, how do we learn? Why do you learn one way and I learn a different way? And how come two people in the same situation can view that problem differently and come up with very different solutions? So I studied in the area of NLP, in mind coaching, hypnosis, CBT. I'm a lifelong learner. One of my favorite things to do is learn more, which is why, of course, I'm in Toastmasters, which it's the perfect place to learn so much. But all of that combined is really what I'm very, very lucky to be able to do in my work. I combine all of the experience that I've had up until this year, and I'll be 60 this year, to work with men and women one-to-one around what I would say is thriving, regardless of your age and stage. And I also deliver quite a lot of well-being sessions for organizations or workplaces, because the reality is that so many people are struggling to stay on top of things. We're all playing catch up. Whew, it's a bit hard sometimes.
Exhausting.
And the reality is that sometimes people are struggling, and it's not always safe to say. And simple interventions can often have pretty impressive results in terms of helping us feel better. I'm very lucky. So that's my work world these days, is combining all of that and still learning all the time.
That sounds fascinating, Ashley. And I was glad when you shared how many years life experience you have. Going back to what Martina had mentioned earlier on, is definitely something that I think we can begin to talk about more in those terms. I also love the whole holistic feature of the work that you do. That's really fascinating. And you mentioned about Toastmasters being a learning ground. I like to think of it as both a learning ground and a playground, because we get to play and have fun in these different roles. And like we were saying earlier before we came online, it doesn't really matter that much if you mess up. You know, we're human. And I think what you were sharing with us there was definitely communicating that human aspect of our health and all of that. Ashley, is there anything that you would like to share with us in relation to your work, in relation to the menopause? I'm particularly interested in this for certain reasons. I just want to know for a friend. No, I'm only joking.
Well, I've been working for myself for about 20 years. And in some ways, life and how it evolved and unfolded for me led me to be interested in this work of hormonal health across all of the ages. I myself had an early menopause, and this was a long time ago when interventions were very few and I was too young to be in menopause. It meant I had a very rough, lonely few years as I navigated symptoms and tried to feel that I wasn't the only one. It meant that I became very interested in this. And so for the last 20 odd years or so, much longer than it's been on trend or fashionable on TikTok, I've worked with women who back then would have said they were going through the change. And these days we talk about menopause. One piece that I'll always mention about menopause is that absolutely for some women it can be incredibly challenging and symptoms can be very significant, and for others much less so. The piece that we don't often remember is that we come to a stage in life when very often this is when we can really care less and say and speak and demand more. And when we remember that in menopause, first of all, it helps us manage symptoms, get the treatments we need, but it also makes life a hell of a lot more fun.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So care less and speak and demand more. Powerful message, Ashley. Ashley, I'm going to ask Olga to bring you to the green room in a minute, but just before you go, can you just let us know if there's a woman in your life who inspires you and shares a little bit with us?
I will indeed. She is on my council of elders. I have a council of elders in my brain with men and women. And this lady has long passed. It's Maya Angelou. She is my hero and is very welcome, probably at the head of the table of my council of elders inside my own brain.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Maya Angelou myself, and that quotation, I've heard it many times in Toastmasters, used in inspirational speeches. People may forget what you say or what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
So, Ashley, we'll welcome you back. Actually, we'll welcome everybody else back online now for our panel discussion. So, Ashley, you can stay where you are. Now, as everybody else is coming on, I'd just like to let everybody know we were also expecting Sharon Dooley to join us. Sharon is another fabulous, inspiring woman, a member and immediate past president of Athlone Toastmasters. She eagerly wanted to be here today, and unfortunately, due to circumstances outside of her control, she couldn't make it. But please do, if you have the opportunity, look her up online. She is a self-love coach. She's a #1 best-selling co-author, a radio presenter, and a motivational speaker. And I had the fabulous opportunity of working on the committee with Sharon when she was president of Athlone Toastmasters, and she did phenomenal work. Besides all of that, she's a fantastic cook, and I know that because we actually had one of our initial committee meetings in her kitchen, which was lovely. So you can do these things in Toastmasters, can't you? So I'm delighted to have my the panel back on screen now. Martina had to leave us early because she's at one of her saging courses. But we have Ashley, Simone, and Nye, and Eileen here. And I'm just bringing up on my screen here the questions that I wanted to run by you. So the first question, I suppose, now that we know a little bit about your background, is to kind of establish that connection, that link with Toastmasters, and what specifically brought you to Toastmasters, and how long you've been in Toastmasters, and why you joined Toastmasters. So I'd like to hear from all of you in relation to that, if that's okay. So looking at my own screen here, I might just start with Eileen.
So, as I said earlier, I have a degree in languages. So 4 years spent in college. Never once had I to stand up and speak in front of the class or a lecture or anything like that. So a lot of people go through college and they have to do presentations. I didn't. And then in my IT career, never had the opportunity to do it either, was never pushed there. So I remember going to yoga class and you'd have to introduce your name, where you're from, and why you're here at the yoga class. I would nearly be sick. My heart would be pounding that I would just simply have to say this. So that's the level of fear where I was coming from. So by joining Toastmasters, it was a big leap of faith, and for me, it did take a lot of courage to go to that first meeting where I didn't know anybody, didn't know what to expect. But the journey has been absolutely incredible. And what I always say to people, you go at your own pace. Nobody is going to force you to stand up and speak. You do it when you are ready in a safe, supportive environment. Like you said earlier, Siobhan, we're not getting paid to do this. It's a place to practice. It's a playground. I just love that analogy because that really resonates with me.
Thanks, Eileen. Thanks. Did you mention how long you've been in Toastmasters, Eileen?
13 years, I think.
13 years. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Nye, over to you, and the same question. Nye, why did you come to Toastmasters? And maybe you could give a shout out to your club as well.
Yes, I would like to give a shout out to the Toastmasters Club in Athlone. I have been a member since January this year. I went a couple of times, maybe twice in November, but I joined in January this year. And one of the reasons why I joined Toastmaster Club was last year I had an opportunity to facilitate a women in local leadership course for 8 weeks. And one of the modules that I was facilitating was public speaking, and that really captured the whole essence of the relevance of bringing out your voice in the best possible way to communicate your message to the audience, to the public, and having that. I realized that in that area I needed to work on myself, finding my own voice. And on top of that, having done a research for my thesis on women leadership, I realized that in my culture or in my tribe, traditionally women don't actually speak in front of men or in public. We are meant to be listeners at the back, and I realized that even though I have been I'm educated and I've had the opportunity to travel, I still had that voice inside me, sit back and listen. And I thought, what, I needed to find my own voice to be able to speak up for myself, to speak up for other women in my community, And Toastmaster was, I Googled it, how do I do this? And it says the first thing you got to do is join the Toastmaster club in your area. Interestingly enough, I did that, and there was a photo on it, and I happened to know one of my friends in it. So I contacted her immediately, and I got to join Toastmaster to find my own voice, to connect. And Toastmaster also is a great place. It's like a part of a community, really, in a sense that you network and you meet people in the same kind of similar journey. And I found that for me, and it strengthened me to finding my own voice in a sense.
Thank you, Nai. Thank you, Nai. And we're so delighted that you have made your way to Athlone Toastmasters, because I can't wait to hear more from you over the years. And Simone, over to you. Simone, how did you find your way to Toastmasters? I think you spoke a little bit briefly about this, and how long have you been in Toastmasters?
So shout out to Salisbury speakers in Dorset, Hampshire side. So we're at the south end of the UK. So I came out of a pretty heavy marriage, and I was kind of rediscovering who I wanted to be and just exploring the woman that I wanted to grow into. And I grew up in theatre. I grew up on stage. I was a singer for a while. I was a dancer. And I also had a few businesses from about 19, 20 years old. So I wasn't completely new to speaking on stage. I wasn't new to presenting myself in a certain way, but I wanted to learn something more in depth and explore that part of who I was and how that could translate to my life at that point. And so I found Salisbury Speakers online in 2023, and I was lucky enough to join them. And such a good, wholesome feeling. The club is so much fun. They're so relaxed, and I felt just so welcome from the very first day that I started, and threw myself in and decided to join, and haven't really looked back. I've really enjoyed it.
Super. Thank you, Simone. And Ashley, same question to you.
I'm a member in Wicklow Toastmasters, and I'm in the club 8 years at this stage. And like the previous speaker, when I joined, I already was competent, I would say, at delivery from the top of the room. But what I wanted to learn was how to play with words, how to capture attention in an audience, how to deliver messages that got heard and that had an impact, which is why I'll often encourage people who already speak well, who want to become really skilled, to join Toastmasters. Because yes, it's for those who are terrified to say a word or even their name, but equally for those who are competent speakers who just want to learn and explore this incredible organization.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think I joined 21 years ago, and I probably will be a lifelong member, because I think there's so many stories to tell. There's so many stories to hear, and you can always improve your skills. Just out of interest for our viewers, I just wanted to let them know that last year we celebrated a really significant milestone in Toastmasters. Last year, Toastmasters was 100 years old, imagine. But notably, 100 years ago, it was set up as an all-men's club. So these wonderful women that you see on our screen today wouldn't have been allowed to join back then. However, in 1973, it was officially opened up to women. So women have been a part of Toastmasters, and a really important part of Toastmasters since 1973. And I'd just like to ask Olga, who's working away in the background, if she wouldn't mind bringing up an image just to show us the data on what are the percentages of women in Toastmasters across the world. So that's very interesting, isn't it? In some places, it's over 50%. In some places, just under 50%. But it'll also show our viewers how widespread Toastmasters is across the world, with, I think it's approximately 14,000 clubs. So just to let everybody know, if you're thinking of, if you've been inspired by the women that you've heard from, if you're thinking about joining a club, there's bound to be a club close to you. Just one final question I would like to ask the panel. So Olga, you can take back down that image, please. Women became a part of Toastmasters officially, as I said, in 1973. And I just wonder what might be your opinion or perspective on what women uniquely can bring to or get from Toastmasters. And I'll start with you, Ashley. We'll go back reverse order.
Well, what we can bring is the voice of one entire half of the global population, firstly. For too long, and we know it, for too long women's voices have been silenced in all parts of the world. In Toastmasters, we have the stage to be able to have our voices heard, to ask questions, to be curious, and to also understand perhaps our own bias, but perhaps to challenge the bias of others too, all in a learning environment. So that's what I think we bring to Toastmasters. What we get, we learn every single time I listen to somebody do some role, I learn. I also get community. I'm very fortunate in our club. We have a wonderful membership generally and a wonderfully strong team of women members. So friendship and support and fun and a place where there's a sense that they're part of our tribe. And that's very important to me.
Super. Thank you, Ashley. And Simone, do you have anything to add to that?
To be honest, Ashley really rounded it up there. But I would say, I think what we bring to the club is just a very different perspective. I think there's a softness that women can bring, and also a vibrancy that our experience in the world, sometimes men don't have that. So I think we have that to share, and it's important to hear both sides. And it's, you learn from both, which is really cool. And I think what we get from it, like Ashley said, is that community. I think having that voice being heard, and also knowing that there's camaraderie in what you're saying, is super powerful. And it's something that is sometimes taken for granted. So definitely having that voice and that companionship, it's huge.
Super. Thank you, Simone. And now over to you. Now you're on mute, I think.
Yes, I completely agreed with the previous speakers, but I just want to highlight, actually, you mentioned that it provides that platform for our voice to be heard. And previously, I think you also mentioned about the power of words. It doesn't only provide you that platform to, voice or, share a message to your listeners or to your audience or to your fellow Toastmasters, but also a voice for yourself. At times, like when you talk about yourself or what the things that you believe, it actually helps you as well to find yourself. So it gives you that inner strength and self-development of it and involvement, and learning more about yourself in the most articulate way possible. And another thing is, women bring a pool of talent. The multitasking aspect of women is incredible. As a woman myself, and a mother, and doing other things in my community, sometimes I ask, how do you do that? That is a uniqueness that women do bring, and it's an incredible achievement that women need to acknowledge it themselves. If you're a woman today, it's Women International Women, tap yourself on the shoulder and say, you are amazing, you are incredible, you are enough, and you can conquer anything you want to. And that's really, really important for yourself, first of all, to the people that you live with, and also to your community and to the rest of the world. And that really highlights that aspect of, how words are powerful. That inner voice that reminds you that you are incredible, you're doing a lot more than you think. It's really important. So I think women bring a lot to the table. We need to have more women on those tables if we really are serious about improving many aspects of our, our lifestyle and improving our communities and also, yeah.
Thank you, Nai. Very inspiring, motivating. Thank you. And Eileen, finally over to you. Anything more to add?
Well, the ladies, I think, have done an incredible job at summing it up. And Nai, I love the way you say that, finding your own voice as a woman within the club. For me, I think that being able to see other women at all different stages of their speaking journey, whether it's new or seasoned, to have that, to have these women as role models and to get inspiration from them as a person. When I joined Toastmasters, to be able to see that it wasn't just all men, because Toastmasters, the name, it maybe can put some people off, but you just have to go along to a club and actually feel the warmth and the support and the encouragement, and then see what it's like as a community. I know here in Tullamore, I'm not being biased, but we have an incredibly supportive group of people as members of Toastmasters. And I think also the leadership that can be learned from within Toastmasters, all of those different leadership roles that you can volunteer for, is something that maybe isn't spoken about a lot. It's all about the public speaking, but what you learn with regard to communication and leadership is something that's really important for us as women to bring to our home, to bring to our work, to bring to our businesses, and to inspire others with.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Wow, what a privilege it's been to be here, to feel the fire and be inspired by this amazing group of women on International Women's Day. I'd like to say a sincere thank you to each of my guests, to Ashley, Simone, Nai, Eileen, Martina, and also to Sharon, who has been part of the journey towards getting this episode on here today. Thank you so much for bringing, I took note of some of the words, your softness, your vibrancy, your vulnerability, your pool of talents, and your own unique little sprinkle of magic, and sharing it with us today. Thank you so much. Special thank you also to another very inspiring woman who has been working away behind the scenes, looking after the technology today, Olga Byrne. Thank you so much. And a big cheer for Olga. She's been working away behind the scenes there. And Olga, I'd like to mention also, is actually the mastermind behind this particular series. So another big cheer for that. Well done, Olga, and thank you. And thank you sincerely to all of you who've tuned in to join us today, to share some of the comments. I hope I've managed to put them up on screen successfully. And also who'll be joining us in the months, maybe years to come, reviewing this particular episode and getting a little bit of inspiration from it. I'm going to ask Olga now just to bring our wonderful panel to our virtual green room for some light refreshments. Thank you again to you all, and I'll finish up online here now. So as Olga has moved our guests, I know we have some Toastmasters who've been joining, but we also have some non-Toastmasters. So you might be wondering still, what is Toastmasters? Well, in a nutshell, Toastmasters helps people, not just women, but all people, because it's an extremely inclusive organization, but it helps all people to develop their communication, public speaking, and leadership skills in a safe, supportive environment. That can be a lot of fun as well. And it's got approximately 14,000 clubs across the world. So like I said, there's bound to be a club close to you. Curiosity is where it starts. So guests are always welcome in any club, and you won't be put under any pressure to speak up on your first few visits. So, why not give it a try? Now, it's been my absolute pleasure to be your host today. And I'd like to finish out this session by sharing with you a little bit about some women who inspire me and who have inspired me. And I particularly liked Nai's comment earlier on when she said, women who inspire us, they're not always the ones that are out there in high positions in politics or in the public eye all the time, but often are role models and our inspirations can be a lot closer. So like I said at the outset, one of the things I like to play around with and dabble with is poetry. And two of the women who have deeply inspired me in my life have been my own mother, Joan, who passed away when I was 16 years old, but continues to inspire me to this day. And also my own daughter, Katie, for her softness, vulnerability, vibrancy, beauty, inside and out. So I'd like to finish this session with a few verses from a poem I wrote about women. And it goes like this. The warmth and wonder of a woman held you at your birth. She knew your worth. Cradling a precious baby, she saw in you a lady. Her smile reflected on your face. Her courage shone in your grace. Let her hope be you. With love and thanks, she held your hand, then gave it away so you could go explore and play and see the world afresh, anew. Figure out what you should do to be a girl in this modern age where restless winds of change, they rage. Let life's new light be you. Let possibility be you. Happy International Women's Day to you all. Thank you for joining us. Let possibility be you. Over and out, Olga.